Now, mitosis is very critical to the development and repair of organisms. However, the stages are controlled by certain factors, and if the cell cycle becomes uncontrolled, it results in what is called as cancerous growth. Now, why do cells undergo mitosis? Firstly, keep in mind those cells will undergo mitosis that need to be repaired or replaced. For example, blood cells will undergo mitosis, bone cells will undergo mitosis. Usually the cell that really doesn't go under mitosis is the nerve cell. That's really the hard one to actually divide and reproduce. But other than that, most cells, as the cells are dying, because cells have a life cycle, and as a continuous repair and replacement process. Now, somatic cells are those cells that are not a part of reproductive organs. So other than the eggs and the zygote, all the other cells are called as somatic cells. So this is a term which is really related to mitosis. Another kind of cells that undergo mitosis are stem cells. Many organs that contain stem cells, which you hear a lot about, is adult stem cells. They have the ability to divide in our body, especially like the red bone marrow stem cells that repeatedly divide and produce millions of cells that can go on to become various types of blood cells. The possibility that researchers are trying to manipulate with the various types of tissue from the red bone marrow stem cells is that these tissues can be used to cure illnesses, because and that's mainly the therapeutic aspect of stem cell cloning. It's not the aspect of producing new organisms or new animals. Embryonic stem cells can theoretically produce reproductive cloning, but the process is very complicated and their success is very minimal to produce a new individual. However, there is a lot of controversy around the stem cells, but these are produced by mitosis. Okay. Now, within the cell cycle, there are certain checkpoints that the cell checks to undergo cell division. The first one is just at the end of G1 phase. If DNA is damaged, then the cell will die. Apoptosis means cell death will result if DNA is damaged. G2 and M. So there are three different stages, and we will see this is the G1 phase. In the G2 phase, mitosis checkpoint, mitosis will only occur if DNA has replicated properly. That is, after the S phase, if the DNA is not damaged. If it is damaged, the process will halt over here. And the last stage is after mitosis. That is, if the spindle have not helped the chromatids to separate. For example, if there were 16 pairs of chromosomal line in the chromatids, and after separation we have, instead of 8 and 8, we have 9 and 7. That's not a proper alignment. Cell will cease its cell cycle over here. So there are three main checkpoints of the cell cycle, and make sure you know these also, because that could be another very good question on the test. So what is cancer? Cancer is actually an abnormal growth of cell. It's an uncontrolled cell growth, so there's an uncontrolled mitotic division, and there are many aspects of these cell division, uncontrolled cell division. Neoplasm is an abnormal growth of cell, which results in what are called as tumors. These could be either benign or malignant. Malignant are usually cancer-causing. Angiogenesis is a process where new blood vessels are formed, which help bring the nutrient and oxygen to cancerous cells. Cancerous cells are very good on and drawing blood supply towards them, and so the process of formation of these new blood vessels is called as angiogenesis. Because, for example, if a cancer developed in this region and it did not get nutrient and blood supply, the cells will eventually divide. So what happens is it gives signals in which these blood vessels are going to start coming on this way. It's a nice animation that I will refer to you to watch later on too. Metastasize means that the cancer, many types of cancers, they can spread and form new tumors from regions that are away from the primary tumor. There are abnormal nuclei. They are undifferentiated, what is called as anaplasia. There's lack content inhibition and no apoptosis, which is no cell death. So there are various different characteristics that will result in cancerous or the formation of cancer. The nuclei of the cancer cells are usually defected, and they may contain an abnormal number of chromosomes. The chromosomes could be mutated. They could not be, and that might be result because it's in incorrect duplication, or during duplication certain regions have been deleted. And we'll talk about cell duplication and cell division. The replication process later. Or they may have damaged DNA, and the DNA that is damaged has not gone apoptosis or programmed cell death. So cancer cells will fail to undergo any of these processes, and they will result in abnormal cells. Cancer cells will grow and divide uncontrollably, and then they will metastasize, which means that they will form tumors in other parts of the organism. Now, two more terms related to cancer cells. The first kind of genes that are related to cancer cells are called as the proto-oncogenes. These are because these mutations can cause. There are certain genes in which there are mutations that will cause them to become oncogenes. Oncogenes are cancer-causing genes. So, for example, they are linked to a gas pedal of a car because they cause acceleration of the cell cycle. RAS genes and the BRCA1, those are associated with breast cancer, and leukemia genes are examples of proto-oncogenes. And these are identified genes that we're talking about. So these genes, if they are mutated, so proto-oncogenes are actually genes that are mutated, and they will form gas pedals. They will form the oncogenes. The reason they are called as the gas pedals is because just like you accelerate the car with a little bit of gas, the more proto-oncogenes their chances are more oncogenes will result, and it will cause mutation. However, there is another kind of gene which are called as the tumor suppressor gene. Now, tumor suppressor genes are like your brake pedals. For example, if you're driving a car and you had no brake pedal, most likely you will have an accident. So tumor suppressor genes are genes that can recognize an incorrect cell division, and they actually will stop, because they will stop the cell to divide. They recognize where the problems are, and it will make the cell inactive, and the cell cycle is actually checked. However, if these genes are mutated, which means that if it is mutated, then it loses the cell cycle control, and which means that if it cannot recognize all the problems in the cell cycle, the cell will then be able to grow. Many times these are also called as the guardian angel, because they protect our cells, and they protect cell division, and they will the loss of these genes or mutation of these genes will cause cancer. So make sure you know if you can relate to the two as to the tumor suppressor genes, which are like your brake pedals, because they can recognize some kind of mutation, and a proto-oncogene, which is a mutation which will become an oncogene. And the cell is if the cell is not properly regulated by both, then the tumor formation is most likely to happen, and many tumors could be resulting in cancerous conditions. So that completes our section of the cell cycle and cell reproduction. We will then follow it with the next cell cycle, which is called as meiosis.